to Corporate Cafecito, a podcast based on professional development, career growth, and respecting our cultural identity. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Corporate Cafecito. Yo soy Nayeli Suarez Gas. And today I have Bridget Johnson on the show. And I know you're probably saying, like, Bridget Johnson, ese nombre no es Latino. And she literally just had that experience today where she walks into a place and, they're like, you're Latina? Talk to us a little bit about your history, Bridget.
I was born, first of all, I'm so excited to be here.
I'm glad you're here.
Absolutely honored. I was born in Cuba, came to the United States when I was 5. And I'm 61 now, so I've been here a long time.
Yeah, a really long time.
A really long time. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I mean, I remember, being on the plane from Cuba to Florida with my mom and my brother. And I remember sitting there and saying to my mom, Mami, ¿hablas inglés? And she would be like, oh, yeah. And then she'd do some gibberish. And my brother and I were both in awe, like, oh.
Like, oh, good. She speaks English.
Oh, wow. I didn't know. And I remember vaguely remember saying, how did you learn it? We didn't know you knew English, so. Yeah.
Did she know English?
No.
No,
eventually, after working years at Western Electric on the assembly line, she learned.
And I think that
English.
Speaks to, as immigrants, as people who come to this country, like, our parents have to be so strong.
Yes.
And have this, like, oh, yeah, todo va a estar bien, no se preocupen.
Yes.
And so I know Bridget now, and she is a local entrepreneur. And so when I talked to her and I heard her story, it is one of bravery, of coming, of reinvention. But, one of the things, and especially, as I think about our statistics, Latinos are the ones opening up the most number of businesses. Now, you have entrepreneurialism? I don't know if that's a word.
I think that's a good word.
In your blood.
Yes, it flows. My mom, mi mami, owned her own resale shop before she knew.
It was cool.
It was cool before even that term. My mom and dad trabajaron duro todos sus años en una factoría. Mm-hmm. So I have to plug in, we are a proud union family, okay? So I have to say that. And we went to Catholic schools. And when it was time to switch over to new uniforms, and I told you this when we talked, my mom would look around the house and she'd say, ¿Qué puedo vender mañana? And she would take whatever she could find, una estatua, whatever, una sábana, lo que sea. And she would take it to Western Electric, and on her lunch hour, she would sell it. And that's how she made the extra money, so that we could buy our uniforms and not have to dig into their family fund for the mortgage and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and my mom, she also worked in una fábrica, and she made plastic bags, and they used to give them bonuses, and it was something like a nickel or something for some. And I remember she would say, she's like, si ocupaban tenis, I used to say, all mis bonos de esta semana van para los tenis.
Sí.
And just having that mentality or that mindset of, like, if I need more things, I got to make more money, and I got to figure it out.
Yes, sí. Así que that's how it's in my blood. And I went to school. I went to Aurora University. And got a degree in criminal justice and social work. So I did all that for a long time. Mm-hmm. And how I started this business is that I was going through a divorce, and my daughter, Chiquitica, wanted a new bedroom set. and I didn't have the money, and asking her dad was not an option. So I went to, Home Depot, got some spray paint, and I painted her bedroom furniture. And she was just so happy with it. She loved it. And that's how it started. And I thought, I could get better at this. So then I took a class on furniture painting, and the rest is history. But it's all from back there, from
Right.
my family.
That we need to provide for our kids.
Yes.
I actually I became an entrepreneur because of my kids. And one of the things that I always felt was like, I never had the experience of having my mom pick me up from school.
Yeah.
And, I was like, we would all walk home and be a good big group of us, and we would all go to the same señora's house
Yes.
or to my grandmother's house, or, for a while my mom worked the third shift so that she could pick us up from school for a little bit, but then she was able to go back to the first, which it was nicer to have my mom there in the evenings.
Yes.
But I was like, I want to be home and get my kids. I want them to come out and see a parent. And I did have people that would go pick them up, at the beginning. And then in 2019, so we're going on 6 years in January, I left corporate to do that, to go and be the one that my kids saw after school. And I know not everybody can do that, but I do, I was like, I need to do this because I felt like the first several years of my kids' lives, I was barely there because I was always traveling for work. And so I needed to do that shift of and I think it's going back to our culture of I want to be there with my kids, or I do value being a mother. And so I wanted to make sure that I could do that. And so it's rough as an entrepreneur, but you have to learn. And like you said, take the classes of okay, if I'm going to do this, let me learn how to do it right.
Similar to that, my mom, porque no hablaba inglés, no podía ser voluntaria en la clase. She could not volunteer because she had, I think mostly because she had to work those shifts. Whatever shifts they gave her, she had to work them. But she had a language barrier, so she couldn't volunteer in the classroom. So that stuck with me, seeing all the other kids' moms there. That obviously left an impression, because when I had kids, I was like, I am going to be that homeroom mom that volunteers. I'm going to do whatever I can to do it. And I did. I did that. So, we get molded by our experiences.
Yeah.
We really do.
You've kept on being an entrepreneur.
I own a wonderful little shop in Batavia, Illinois, called Red Hive Market. And it is a shop, it is a collective, because we have 38 artisans under 2 roofs. We expanded shortly after the pandemic. Y esa es otra cosa, when the pandemic hit, other businesses, rightfully so, were like, oh my gosh, what's our future? What's going to happen?
It was so scary.
It was very scary. And I said to my husband, my parents and my grandparents did not come all the way here from Cuba for us to fail.
Yeah.
And so we're not going to fail. And we worked so hard. It was very hard, and my husband wasn't retired at the time. So it was me and our 12 artisans at that time that really just hustled and did whatever we had to do, because that is really a Latino thing. You do whatever you have to do.
Okay, so let's go back to that, because I think that's, you guys all need to get to know Bridget. But one of the things is we have this in us to want to not waste the struggle that our family went through, right? And you just said that.
Yes, that's a beautiful way to put it.
And when you first got here, you were living with your tío, right?
We did. Como lo hacen los inmigrantes.
Yeah, and it's so funny because hearing you, when I think of Cubans, I don't realize how much similarities it is, right? A lot of times I'm like, oh, well, you flew here.
Yeah.
But it's like, well, yeah, but then you got here and we all live the same.
Yeah.
En casa del tío, cerca de la abuelita.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and the other part of the story is my uncle Manolo, who is still alive, got in that dinghy, at 1 o'clock in the dark of night in Cuba, got into a dinghy with other Cubanos to try and make it to Florida. And he was not successful. And para que no lo encuentren the army, the people in charge of the government, the communists, they went back to the island and then tried another time, and tried another time. And so it's water,
Yeah.
keeps us, so many of us Latinos, from reaching, but we
Here.
try it. We will
we keep
risk our
going.
lives,
Yeah.
whatever it is it takes. Yes, we did come on an airplane, but oh my gosh, the struggle, was real when my parents finally saved enough money to buy their own house on the east side of Aurora, Fulton Street, 744 Fulton Street. My uncle came over and he parked his rickety truck on our front lawn. Y esta vecina, viejita americana, came over and she says, we don't do that here. And I'm translating for my parents, and my papi said, "What? ¿Qué dice?
What don't we do?
¿Qué no hace?
Yeah.
¿Qué es lo que no se hace aquí? Bridget, pregúntale." And I said, "My father wants, what?" She says, "We don't do that. We don't park our trucks on our lawn. That's what the street is for." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Esto es lo que dice papi."
Yeah. You're like,
So we just, back then, you wanted to comply, you wanted
to fit in.
to fit in. Back then the term was melting pot. That is not.
no.
We don't want a melting pot. We don't want to be like
No,
melted
we want
in.
everything to look, we still want to celebrate each individual.
Yes, but those were the terms back then.
But you talk about like melting pot, and one of the things is, we are really lucky to have come to Chicago, because Chicago, like, we had good Cuban food. We have good Cuban food, right? We have good Mexican restaurants. We have good Korean restaurants. We have Greek town. And I just assumed every major city was like that. And it's not.
No.
It's not. So I think that, like, we have been lucky to, we say in Mexico, juntos pero no revueltos, where we still have our individuality of not becoming that melting pot.
Yes.
Of not melting.
Of not melting. That was, all you wanted to do was just not look different.
Yeah.
Back then you just wanted to look like every other person, so you didn't want to stick out, but we did, We, we spoke with an accent, when I was little. Saturdays was for helping my parents translate. We'd go to the bank, we'd go to wherever they needed to go to, the lawyers, whatever it was, that was me. I went. And I have to admit, I held a grudge on my brother, that he got to stay home and he got to do the kid thing. He got to watch the cartoons.
Yeah.
So when I see a little kid traduciendo for their parents, it just breaks my heart, because that's me.
Yeah. No, I think
of
that's
me.
really, we've gone through a lot of therapy to understand that when we do that to our kids, one, it was helpful, right? But
Yeah.
I was the translator for my grandmother, for my parents. Eventually now I just translate for everybody. But they, like, I forgot the term that she said, but like, they made us adults really
Yes.
young. But my therapist also said, because they did that to you when you were so little, you can do so much.
Yes, that's
Because
a
you
good
had to
point.
learn banking when you were 9.
Yeah.
You had to learn mortgages when you were like
Yes.
10. All these
Yes.
things, and so I struggle as a mother to think about, like, what do I teach my kids?
Yeah.
Right? I don't want them to lose their childhood, but I'm like, at what age do I start teaching them, like, critical life skills?
Yes, to survive. I tell my kids, they had it so easy. They had it so easy, and they don't get it. They don't understand.
But you know what? Our parents probably think we had it so easy.
Yeah. compared to how they had it.
Yeah.
Yes. So I guess that's what we're doing. We're making each generation, cada generación, mejor y mejor.
Yeah. Yeah. And extending their childhood.
Yeah. Yeah. So it is very, I redo. I remember. I was thinking about this beautiful conversation that I was going to have with you today, and all these memories just started flooding, things that I wouldn't say I suppressed them. I said, life goes on and you just do things. And I just forgot, yes, about all those times, going, to the bank with them, going to if they needed to apply for a loan or whatever it was, and the fear of getting it wrong.
You know what's so
That
funny?
fear.
Yeah, of like, I'm going to mess up our mortgage.
Yeah, I'm going to mess up their lives.
I'm going to do.
Yes.
It's funny because, like, I help my parents do their taxes every year, right? Get everything in order, do all that. But the minute I asked for it for my FAFSA that I had to submit it, they're like, ¿Pa qué ocupas eso? And I'm like, I've had access to this for like 12 years.
Yes. Yeah, we didn't, my parents, we didn't have that. We didn't know about FAFSA. I don't even know if it was around then. I don't know. We didn't have scholarships. We didn't have grants. None of that, And conversely, I remember my freshman year in college, I was tanking. It was so much fun. I didn't really have to go to class. Nobody took attendance. So I was like failing. And I remember that Aurora University sent a letter home. Yeah. And my father opened it, but I was like really confident he would not know what it said.
Oh, he knew what it said.
He knew what it said.
He's like, now you know English?
Yeah. I'm like, now you're bringing out your skills. And he was like, Mira, you either get your act together or you're going to get a full-time job. Now, I can't imagine opening up my kids' mail. They would have a spaz attack. And I think to myself, that was an intervention that my dad opened that up, because had he not, I probably would have kept on having fun instead of like, wow, because he laid it down. So
I don't know if my kids live at my house and their mail comes in. I'm not sure. I might open it. Depends what it's from.
My parents there was no privacy.
Oh yeah, we never had privacy.
There was no
either.
privacy. Mm-mm. It was like, no, this is, so when I took my firstborn to college and we're sitting there and the college is telling all the students, your parents don't need to have access, legally they cannot have access to your grades and everything. I was like, what the?
You're like, well, unless you're paying for it, right?
And
that's
I did.
when the Mexican comes out. Cuando yo lo pague.
Yeah, and I did. And I said turn to my son and I said, Nicholas, I will have access to that. And he's like, yeah, chill, Mom. I'm like, yeah. And there was this lady next to me, this mom, and for content, this African American lady, and she said to her son, what that mama said. It's like, yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Yes, I'm going to get access to it. Pero ahora, no. Ahora is all this privacy and...
Yeah, and I struggle with that. But I know that there'll be a boundary, and I know that I will learn it. And I know that, if it was something personal, like a letter from his friends or whatever, I wouldn't read it. But I'm like, if it's from la escuela?
Yes. Yeah, so my son got a note from the IRS. And now he's 26. He's got a note from the IRS. I opened it. And he's like, oh, my God, when will you stop?
When you move out.
I'm like, it says IRS. I got to know what's in there, Nicholas. And he's like, I would have told you. I'm like, would you have?
Yeah.
Would you have?
I hate IRS letters. They make me nervous.
And you do the taxes.
Yeah. Yeah. Your entrepreneurial journey started when?
Long before I even became a vendor in somebody else's shop, because I would sell little things here and there. But that's really, truly, when I opened up my own little boutique in somebody else's shop, that I was a vendor. And that's when I started painting furniture and curating, vintage things and, reselling them. And I did that for 5 years. And, there were things that I felt like they could be doing differently, that, that they were not, forward thinking with technology, using a Square, point of sale system, things like that. And when I would make suggestions, it was not received well. So I would complain a lot to my husband. And one day we were having breakfast in Batavia, and he's like, and this was a for lease sign, and he's like, there, that's going to be your next door. And I was like, oh, no, that's so scary. And he says, okay, this is a deal. You either do this or you don't complain to me anymore.
Oh, I hate when they give them
And
ultimatums.
I was like, damn it.
So then you did it.
So I did it because I knew that I could not complain about. It would just be like frustrating to me.
Yeah.
So we did it. And it was so scary, and we are celebrating our 5th year this November.
That's amazing.
And we survived the pandemic, which we opened November 30th of 2019, and the pandemic
March
hit.
2020.
Yes, yes. And I was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
But I knew that, it was not failure. It could not be. And so we worked really hard, and then we reopened. We followed all the rules that the governor had imposed, everything, We did it all the way that we were supposed to do it, and we reopened, and then 2 years later, we realized that we really had outgrown, because other artisans were coming to us and saying, do you have space? Can we rent from you? And we had no room. We had outgrown our space. So then we decided that if the insurance company next to us ever left, we would take it, and they did, and
You took it.
and we took it. And that was another scary thing. And I had to do a lot of self-talk of like, my gosh, we survived the pandemic. We can do this.
Yeah.
And we did it. But it's all scary,
It's so scary.
It's scary. And I can't imagine our family that left a country they knew the language and came to a foreign place.
Yeah. But you know what? Each time, and we call it leveling up, right?
Yeah.
So one is the fear of the unknown, and now it's like the fear of the known, of like, I know what it's like to run a business like
Yes.
this. We're going to be taking on more business. May I ask, when you do something like that, did you have to do a business loan? Did you have cash on hand? Like, how were you able to expand? Because there may be people here who want to do their brick and mortar. Like, what are some things to consider?
Well, first of all, it's not our building, so we lease it. So that makes it easier because we don't have to have that capital to plop down on a building. But if you can do your own building, if you can buy your own building, that's the best route to go. Why pay somebody else rent?
Yeah.
We have a great landlord. The expansion was really moving some, not even doors or anything, just taking away some plywood that blocked some doorways and painting. The challenge always is finding really good, talented artisans. And this, if you don't mind, is a great opportunity for me to say, we're looking for great artisans all the time. And I really want to have a larger representation in Batavia. So that's what it was. So that's our finding quality artisans who say, I want to do this, but I'm not ready to
open up my
a
own
5-year
store.
lease. Yes.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful way to afford that like entry into market, because the first time a consumer interacts with you is when they can pick up your product.
Yes.
And to get them in that store, although Amazon has changed a lot of that by being able to just deliver it, and if you don't like it, send it back.
Yeah.
But I think that when we think of things that are artisanal, it is about seeing and appreciating it in person.
Yes. Because you're absolutely right. You don't, online stores are great, it's a click, but you miss that interaction with the person behind the counter, you miss the interaction with the merchandise, with the object, with that candle that was hand poured, with that pottery piece that was hand thrown. You get to touch it, you get to see it. Yeah, Amazon is good for, I think, paper towels, but it's not good for that piece of merchandise that is really going to reflect you and your home.
Right.
And you're supporting small businesses, you're supporting local artists.
Which is huge.
It is huge.
It is huge because I mean that's the only way we keep that sense of community and
It
that
is.
you get to see the artists and you get to hear their stories, and I think a lot of times when you get something when you're like, but this was made by this woman who did
Yes.
XYZ and blah blah blah. If
Yes.
you could tell the story of your piece, it also
Yes.
makes it more interesting.
One of our artisans, Gloria Sanchez, is de West Chicago. Saved to rent half a wall from us. She does these beautiful burnt cowboy hats, cowgirl hats. And her daughter helps her with the Facebook. Her daughter helped her name the business called Cowgirl Couture. Doesn't sound Latina, pero it's,
But it is.
but it is. So those
Bridget
are
Johnson doesn't sound Latina, but she is.
But I am. So that's the story. Those are the histories that you get. And I think of a mercado, I
Yeah.
think of an open air mercado where you can go and you see, the artists and
Yeah.
you can talk to them and you can touch their products and know that what you're spending on it is going to buy new shoes for their children, whatever it
Absolutely.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to the CEO so he can buy a new Mercedes.
Right. No, I love that. I love that.
I
Well,
do too.
Bridget, it has been so good having you on here. I have loved your story. I love talking to you. I think that your mom is an example for all of us. I could see why you're so strong.
Thank you. We
And-
all have that mom.
Yes, we do all have that mom. And
Yeah.
you know what? I also think it's really beautiful when we are out in our community and we see like kids, and I'm always like, you know what? I'm like, todas estas mamás, we're all taking care of the kids. Like you
Yes.
see one kid running towards the street, it may not be yours. Someone's gonna
Yes.
grab them and like stuff.
Yes.
So I do think that we all have that mom, and we are also all those moms.
We are. That is beautiful. We are. I think that is our community.
Yeah,
That's very nurturing.
it is.
And isn't afraid of, oye chico, ven pa' acá.
Yeah.
To also do that little bit of discipline when the mama isn't around, or la abuelita.
Yeah, and I
So-
think that's you're kind of like letting these artisans come and have their space, and you're providing the roof over their head.
Thank you.
So that you can continue to nurture their dreams and your dreams.
Thank you.
And so
Yes.
thank you for doing that.
Oh, you are very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, ladies, stay tuned for more episodes, and we will see you here next time at Corporate Cafecito.